Hey guys, so I thought somebody might find this useful, just taking a closer look at the ASUS X570-Plus Wi-Fi, the board's layout, and what comes with it. So, opening the box, you don't see a whole lot right off the bat. Looks like we have an accessory compartment here on the left, and the motherboard in its Mylar bag in the main compartment of the box. So if we set the motherboard aside, in this pouch up here, it looks like we have the Wi-Fi antenna. And then if we take out this part, we have the I/O shield for the rear panel, two SATA cables, some screws for the NVMe solid-state drive ports, user guide, along with a driver disk and some advertisements. So here's the board itself, and as you can see right here we have the CPU socket and the mounting brackets for AM4. We have 4 different memory DIMM slots. They're color coded by channel. Our ATX 24 pin connector. We have a USB 3.2 connectors for like a front panel, and then if you want to use a 2.1, then that's down here. Looks like they also have like a serial or COM pinout area, our front panel pins here. So taking a close look at these memory sockets right here, you'll notice that this first one closest to us and the third one are light gray, and then these 2 other ones are more of a black. And ASUS instructs you to fill this farthest one first if you're only using 1 stick. If you're using 2 sticks, you'll want to use both of these lighter gray ones, so the first and the third. And then obviously if you're using all 4, then you'll fill up the black ones as well. Also down by the memory slots we have 4 little status LEDs, and you can see they're labeled boot, VGA, CPU, and DRAM, and those will tell you what's getting hung up if you say have a bad overclock and you can't successfully post. If we look at the CPU and VRM area, you can see the VRMs have these pretty tall heat sinks. I mean, they're nothing special, and this one kind of looks like it connects to this plastic shroud up here, but really there's a gap, and this shroud provides no cooling whatsoever. So really just more for aesthetics more than anything else. And then at the top right we have the 8 and 4 pin CPU power connections. You really don't need to use this 4 pin. If you have just 8 pin, that will be plenty. Even if you're overclocking a 3900X like I might be doing, the 8 pin will supply all the power you need, so you don't need to add that extra 4 pin. A little bit to the left here we have a 4-pin fan controller and 4-pin, it's called AIO or all-in-one power connector. And the fan connectors, which there are multiple of these 4-pin ones, those can be controlled with the ASUS software to vary your fan speeds. And the output on all these is 1 amp, so you can have 12 watts total power. But the one labeled AIO always runs at 100% duty cycle. So even if you're changing your fan speeds with ASUS software for the actual fan channels, the AIO one, which is meant for one of those water cooling units like a Corsair H100, that one will always run at full speed, so that your water cooling pump always runs full speed. Looking down at the chipset area, we can see we have 4 SATA ports here and another 4 over here. And these all go to the chipset, and they can all be set up in a RAID configuration. And this board supports RAID 0, 1, and 10. So taking a look at the expansion area of the motherboard, between the CPU socket and this first PCIe slot, we have an NVMe slot. You can see the various mounting studs here for different length drives that you'll use the standoff and screw that was included in the motherboard box. And then we have all of our PCIe 4.0 slots. The first slot is physical length by 16, and it also can give you 16 lanes. These 2 shorter ones here are both 1 lane, and then the second 16 physical lane width slot, but this one can only run at a max of PCIe 4.0 4x. Then next to this lower 16x physical slot, we have a heatsink, which underneath is the second NVMe mounting slot. I found it a little bit weird that this lower one has a heatsink with thermal pad on it, ready for application, but the upper one over here does not have a heatsink. I guess they just expect any NVMe SSD up here to get some residual cooling from a CPU cooler or a GPU cooling fan. Both of the ports are also PCIe 4X or 4X bus, and if you're using SATA M.2 on them, I didn't see anything in the manual that said you lose any of the other 8 SATA ports. Up at the top corner here of the board, we can see we have our audio processing chip underneath this little shield, along with the front panel audio headers. And of course, they've added their little separation in the PCB that's supposed to help with noise. Looking at the back I/O panel, we actually have a PS2 port, which I was not expecting, and then we have 4 USB 3.1 ports, and those are first gen, so they're only up to 5 gigabits per second. These two kind of teal ones over here are also USB 3.2, but those are Gen 2, so up to 10 gigabits per second. At the bottom here, next to these 3.2 ports, is a USB-C 3.2 port, so that's also 10 gigabits per second. Then we have HDMI, display port, if you're using an APU, and the Wi-Fi connectors. And this Wi-Fi card that they include, it's only AC, but it is MIMO, so it is 2x2. And then next to that, we have an RJ45, which is the Realtek gigabit LAN. And then lastly, we have all the audio connectors on the right. So that's a quick look at this board, its layout, and some of the features. And now I need to get to building with it.